What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today we're going over episode number 7 of BBCan11. And we start off with the fallout from the nominations where Dan put Renee and Hope on the block. Renee's kind of on a mission. She's like, I need to get these votes. I need to figure out what's going on. She ends up having a chat with Dan, who flat out tells her, yeah, you're my target right now. Though the real target is always and was always going to be Rob, unless for some reason the nomination stayed the same. Renee would be the backup target in that situation, but he's like, yeah, pretty much, you're the most detrimental player to my game right now. You, Renee. Right to her face. Which, listen, I guess if you say it to almost anybody else in the house, probably a bad thing, but you're saying it to Renee, who came in last place in pretty much every competition she's been in. So you probably don't have to worry about it too much. If you were going to say it to anyone, Renee's probably the best one to do it too. She ends up going to have a chat with Hope, who actually asked to go on the block, and he's like, I didn't know. And she's like, why'd you have to say you were going to go on the block? This is terrible now. Eventually we get a little convo with Dan and Kuzi, and they kind of compare notes on Zach, and they were like, you know what? Dan was considering me to be put on the block. And then Kuzi goes, oh, me too. How do you know? Zach told me. Me too. So they're both kind of saying how like they can't let themselves be played by Zach, who is really kind of running around, kind of running everything at the moment. And he was saying how he pushed for it not to be them to try and gain favor with them moving forward. And then after that, there was actually kind of a funny moment where they both realized they weren't actually in their rooms. They were in the flamingo room when they're in the toucan room, which is a thing in Big Brother. If you're not in your room, it's kind of suspicious. It's like, wait, why are you in this bedroom? That's weird. Both of them in there, they could have just been like, we literally didn't even realize we walked in here. But it was still pretty funny. Then we get a Ty and Claudia convo, and this is what seems to be the start to what really pushed it over the edge of, okay, we have to get rid of Rob. We might have thought about doing the back door, but this really has to happen now, at least for Ty and Zach. So Claudia says like, oh yeah, like, so what's the plan? Like, are you guys still going to backdoor Rob? And he's like, wait, what? Who said that? It's like, we had this conversation. She's like, nope, you're thinking of the wrong person. Wasn't me. Nope. Don't know what you're talking about. She's like, why are you getting so defensive? If it's not actually a thing, then maybe I was just confused, but this seems weird. She ends up telling Nene and Renee about it, which they're all both like, that's interesting that he was so defensive. Why was that? He ends up going and telling Santina and Zach that Rob is getting in the girls' ears. He says he's going up and he's all paranoid and they got to send them out, and it becomes like a whole thing. So they eventually get to the veto competition, which we saw Zach, Vanessa, and Kuzi drawn for. So they will join Hope and Renee in competing for this comp. Once again, if you're kind of new to Big Brother Canada, the HOH does not compete in the veto competition. This was basically a big game of perfection. Before they did the perfection, there was like a little puzzle they had to do, stand it up, and that kind of ranked them, which actually gave Zach a bye all the way into the first round because he finished his puzzle first. But then they had to do kind of that old game perfection, you know, that like blue and red little game where you had to take the yellow pieces and the shapes and put them in the right hole before the timer ran out, or pop up and send all your pieces flying. It was like that, but with big pool noodle toothbrush bristles, like it was a big electronic toothbrush that was shaking around. So eventually it does get down to Zach and Hope. Hope kind of made it all the way through the line of just taking people down. There was also 5K on the line, so it made it a little bit more incentive to win. Zach ends up winning it, even though he shouldn't have. He really should have thrown this. There was no reason for him to win when Hope was the one he was up against, because Hope's going to win. He'll either use the veto on himself or he will take Renee off. It was going to be one of the two. So he wasn't going to not use it. So there was no reason for him to win it. But he does win it anyway. And this actually leads to some drama with some other people as well. But we get Hope and Vanessa having a little bit of a hug. And he's like, I hope you didn't throw it. And she's like, no, I wouldn't throw it. And he's like, did you give him, strategy? She's like, what? No. And this gets her very upset, very emotional. She ends up having to have a talk with Hope, kind of to calm down, where she's like talking about how there was $5,000 on the line. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, that's money for my kids' college, right? Like, I would never do that. And I would never help Zach win. Like, how could you do that? This all ends up leading to a fight with Zach. But before we get that, something that happened in the middle was some tension that seems to be building between Ty and Zach, which up to this point we have seen nothing but them being super tight and probably the closest alliance that we have in the game. So Zach said, listen, at this point, we've got to keep Dan around. Like, he's someone that we can trust. He's like, I trust him more than I trust Claudia. And Ty's like, are you crazy? Like, he still has to go. He's a huge threat. Like, he can rally people. He can win competitions. Like, he has to go. He's like, this was your decision, right? Like, to go after Rob and all this and backdoor JM. And he's like, what do you mean my decision? This is our decision. Like, we're working in this together. If you keep making me take all the heat, I become the only target. And Ty's like, well, you should have thrown the veto. He's like, you should have told me to throw the veto. So they just kind of went back and forth. But it's interesting to see cracks forming in their duo already, because potentially, if this backdoor does fall through, we could be seeing a war between two sides, and maybe Ty doesn't stick with Zach all the way through. Again, we had the Vanessa getting emotional stuff, where that eventually led to Zach, while that was happening, saying like, oh God, I don't have time for this. Like, that is like, she shouldn't be doing that. She shouldn't be getting this emotional, which then leads to Vanessa confronting Zach and saying like, I just think it was not okay when you said that. And Zach actually owns up. He's like, listen, I spoke a little rudely. I was worked up myself. I shouldn't have said that. I apologize. Like, I don't want anyone to feel lesser or anything like that in this house. Vanessa wasn't taking it. Vanessa wasn't taking it. She was on a warpath, because eventually it gets to the point where he's just like, look, I don't know what else to say to you. I'm going to walk away. If you want to make an example out of this or whatever, fine. So he walks away, which just kind of got Vanessa steaming more, because then he's in the kitchen. He's cooking bacon up. He's living his life right now. He's holding the veto. He's feeling good. And Vanessa walks up and says, Zach, you're the type of guy who has to pretend to be nice, and then walks into the pantry. He's like, wait, what? What is going on? It just builds from there, where she starts saying that, every time someone's in the HOH, he's trying to run the stuff. He's trying to tell me what to do with the veto if I won. How about when you wanted to put Rob up last week and vote him out? And then everybody is like, all corners of the house, like starting to listen more, like, what's going on? Wait, what's happening down there? And when Rob got brought up, that was when things really started getting wild, and Zach started to be like, all right, you know what? I'm not just going to sit here and take this. You need to think about what you're saying. This is crazy stuff. What are you talking about? Eventually, though, it does kind of settle down, and they go their separate ways. But Rob goes and talks to her, like, what's going on? She's like, oh yeah, I just blew things up. Like, this is what's going on. He's like, is it like real though? And she's like, yeah, it's real. Rob tries to go and clear up the air with Zach, but he really wasn't in the mood, because he was just in a big fight with Vanessa. So he kind of blows him off, which really wasn't the best way to handle that either. And then we get Santina kind of seeing the light. She's like, I feel like this has opened up stuff that I wasn't really thinking about. Like, I think Zach really did kind of control my HOH. And she goes to Dan and warns him about that. Like, yeah, you know what? The JM stuff, that was all Zach. It was all him kind of controlling everything. And Dan's like, wow, really? Like, I don't think he really took it much to heart, but Santina definitely has kind of had a moment of clarity, where she's kind of realizing what's been going on. She then has a really bad convo with Zach, where there was a lot of like my's and not a lot of RRR when it comes to talking about like our game or my game. Zach kept talking about like getting Rob out is best for my game. And she's like, well, keeping Rob would probably be best for my game. What about our game? Aren't we not a partnership? Shouldn't we be talking about what's best for both of our games as a whole? And even if we disagree, we can come to an understanding of each other's position. Eventually Zach leaves and she ends up telling Rob, like, they're going to put you up. He's like, oh, so like, should I do something? She's like, yes, of course you should. I'm telling you right now. Poor Santina's having a little bit of a roller coaster here of emotions. So she's trying to get on board with keeping Rob and going against Zach and Ty now. So it's going to be interesting. John eventually tries to get to the bottom of it as well, goes to have a chat with Zach, but it turns into Zach being like, what is there to get to the bottom of? Like, what are we trying to figure out? Something that just someone else made up? Like, this is just Rob being paranoid. He's pressing everyone for information, and John's like, he's not pressing me. He's like, well, of course he's not going to press you. So it just ends up being bad. It ends up making John feel worse about the situation and feeling like Rob is actually going to go up. And he ends up getting really emotional with Santina. And he even gets to the point where after telling a story about his mom having cancer and in the last moments of her life, you know, having to dance or being able to dance and kind of, you know, get that movement in. He's like, there's just so much more to this game than what's going on right now. Like, there's more than just this game. And to him, going against someone that he considers like a brother to him, he just doesn't want to see that happen for Rob. Even says he's thinking of getting Zach to use the veto and have Dan put him up on the block so that Rob doesn't have to. And yeah, it is going to be quite an episode tomorrow, because we might either see the actual backdoor of Rob where he does go home, or we see a failed backdoor. Rob stays and it starts the war with Zach. Either way, this could get real messy real quick. This was a great episode. This was a lot of fun watching this with all the drama and the gameplay going on. I'm excited to see how this eviction goes. If I had to guess right now, though, based on things we know from the digital dailies, it's 50-50. Santina is locked in, I think. She wants to keep Rob. Jonathan, locked in, wants to keep Rob. I think Hope would be on board to keep Rob. Even though he's close to Renee, I think he is on board through Jonathan and Santina. Kuzia, Anika, and Daniel. This is where it's tough, because if you have three, you can get those three, and that's six, and that's all you need. They don't know if they can trust Santina and if she's actually working with Rob or if she's closer to Zach. So it really comes down to those three: Daniel, Kuzi, and Anika. If they have the trust in Santina actually voting for Rob to stay, they will vote with that and have the numbers. Vanessa might be a vote for Rob to stay. She's told Dan like she sees more value in Rob staying than Renee staying. So that's kind of a thing. And she doesn't trust Zach. She knows that Rob would be against Zach. So she would be kind of maybe a vote. So it could even be like a 7-person vote there to get on Rob's side. So it's either going to be like a 6-4 or a 7-3 vote, right? Because it would be 10 people. Yeah, since last week was 11-0. So yeah, it would either be a 7-3 or a 6-5 vote, and the 6-5 vote could go either way. If it is actually no, if it's a failed blindside, it's going to be more of a 7-3. So it could be a 7-3 either way. For Rob or Renee to go, because it would end up being, let's say, or actually, no, it would be more than that, because who else would be voting? Because Claudia, Shanae, Zach, and Ty. That would be 4 votes on that side. Then you would have Santina, Vanessa, Hope, Jonathan, let's see, Anika, Daniel, Kuzi. That would be 7. So it would be 7-4. 7-4. would be the potential vote that it could happen. But again, Anika, Daniel, and Kuzi could very well also vote to keep Renee over Rob, making it also 7-4 if Hope is still on Rob. But if they're over there, so it might end up being like a 7 or an 8-2 vote, right? That would be, or 8-3 vote. Oh, this could go a lot of different ways because it all depends on who trusts who. It all depends on who trusts who. But this is why it gets kind of exciting, and also why it is a little bit fun that we're being held information, right? Like, I know we all would love to have the live feeds back. Because when you have the live feeds, you really can see where everybody is on the board. You have a much clearer picture of what's going on. But since we only have limited information, and sometimes we get conflicting information based on the episodes and the dailies, it does make it a little bit more fun, almost like we're playing the game a little bit, right? Like we're somewhat of a house guest who's there for some conversations and not there for others, so we don't 100% know who's more loyal to who. So it does make it a little bit more interesting and a different experience as we're watching. But let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Who do you think is going to be going home tomorrow? Will it be Rob? Will it be Renee? Because we do know that the veto was used on Hope and Rob was put up as the replacement. Let me know in those comments down below. Again, there is an episode tonight, so it's going to be an interesting one. So let me know in those comments down below what you thought of everything. If you are new here, though, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. There's links to my Twitch, my Twitter, my Discord, my Kick, brand new Kick that I've started up as well. So you can find all the links to that stuff down below. Follow what you want, ignore what you want. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you for all the support you give me on this channel. And I will see you next time.